think that Jason was going to be on the board anymore. It just seemed easier for me to go ahead and, since we're basically, running through our reports and everything, and if it's okay with the board members, for me to just go ahead and sort of run that for today, and then we can plan to adopt another board chair, get a board chair appointed at our first meeting for next year. So that is the plan, unless I have any board members that would like to go ahead and sit around and set a meeting, which would be fine too. So that's kind of why I'm sitting here. The process.
Are board members allowed to make a nomination?
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. We can, if you guys felt like you would wanted to do that today, we can certainly can. The statute basically says that at the first board meeting of the year, we are to appoint a board chair. So we can. This is obviously not the first board meeting of the year. I don't think anything drastic would happen to us if we went ahead and picked a new chair. We do have a couple of new members, so I thought maybe getting through one meeting, and also not to spring it on you guys, like all of a sudden, hey, who wants to be chair? So you can think about it, and anyone who would like to chair the board, we can certainly, if it's the board's pleasure, you can do that today, or we can wait till the next meeting. It's
Make a nomination, during by email or something.
Oh, sure, and that is generally when our first board meeting of the year, that we have that on the agenda to do that. And Jason was renamed last year, so that's kind of where we are with that. And if that's okay with you guys, we'll just proceed in that direction. If that's okay. All righty, so I've already gotten off script. Terrible. I already called the meeting to order, more or less. I hope we're now ordered. We do have a quorum. And as I said, we do have 2 new board members today to join us. We have Lauren Nielsen, who represents environmental interests, and Kevin Ryan, who represents financial lending. I will start with Kevin, and if you could just tell us a little bit about yourself, that'd be great, and we'll all go around and introduce ourselves.
I'm Kevin Ryan. Express this down that we need to do, or just talk. I'm a retired credit union executive. I was CEO of Financial Center First Credit Union in Indianapolis until about 1.5 years ago. And I had been close to the Department of Financial Institutions in that capacity. The director of the Department of Financial Institutions is a friend. He was talking to somebody at IDEA, and they said they needed a person that had a financial institution background. And so they called me, and in the interview, I told them I have a lot to learn. I don't intend to be an expert. I do understand finance, and I understand numbers, but there's a lot I have to learn and about what you guys do and what you're focused on. I'm flattered, and even after I tried to talk myself out of it, they went ahead and said, okay, you're part of it. So I'm glad to be here, and thank you for the opportunity.
My name is Lauren Nielsen, and I work with Acuity Environmental out of Fishers. And I also run a company that specializes in UST compliance. So I do a little bit of the preventative and a little bit of the responsive cleanup. I've had experience working with the health in some capacity for probably 10 years now, and really excited to be part of this group.
Well, welcome to you both to the board.
Thank you.
I'm Davis Vijay with Heartland Environmental, and I represent the environmental consulting industry.
I'm Rob Mosier with National Oil and Gas, third generation Java ship out of Bluffton, Indiana, and I represent the independent petroleum wholesaler, distributor, and marketers. Mouthful.
Kim Logan, I'm with the Indiana State Treasurer's Office. Peggy Dorsey, Assistant Commissioner for the Office of Land Quality, IDEM.
And we do have a couple members who are with us remotely, do we not?
Yes. Yeah, Mark Aldous and Toby Gonzalez are both remote.
All righty. So today we will have our fund administrators report, the first being the excess liability trust fund. Hillary will give us this report for the ages.
Good afternoon. My name is Hillary Elbert. I'm the Chief Financial Officer for IDEM. This is my first FAB meeting. Happy to present. Thank you. I've been with IDEM for about a year and a half, so I've had a little bit of experience with the ELF fund, to say the least, and looking forward to sharing our numbers with you today. Thank you. No, you're probably important to check it. It's up. Okay. Apologies for the size of the numbers. First is the summary of the fiscal 23 expenses. Our total appropriation last year was 37.2 million. Our total expenses for fiscal 20 was 11.4 million, which left an ending balance of 25.8 million. We received a total of 43 million in revenue last year for the underground storage tank fees. And we ended the trust fund balance with 178 million dollars. Next is a snapshot of fiscal 24. We are through the first quarter. The appropriation is the same as last year's 37.2 million. We have spent just over 3 million so far this fiscal year. We have received 11.5 million in underground storage revenue. And our current balance of the trust fund is 184 million. This next slide reflects the new fees that we're collecting starting in fiscal 24, which is the aviation fuel account. We have collected $164,000 so far this fiscal year. And as we get more information, we'll be able to provide more details on trends and see how it is coming in. But so far, it seems to be pretty close, like 23,000 one month and 91,000. Next slide is a summary of payments and claims so far in fiscal 24. Right now, we're sitting at about a total of 9.6 million that we have received in revenue and then also expended in claims.
Question,
Yes.
just one kind of reference in July, where we had such a large payout. Is that abnormal or is it seasonal?
It kind of varies. Depends on how fast the claims are coming in and how fast they're reviewing.
Is it a function of what happened then?
Yeah, it's just a function of what happened.
Okay, and it's the same way with the February, so thank you.
For Petroleum Trust, we spent 977,000 last year for fiscal 23. And the ending balance of the fund was 6.8 million for fiscal 23. So far this fiscal year in 24 for Petroleum Trust, we show no expenses currently, but we anticipate spending the same amount as fiscal 23. Any questions?
Yeah, a question. So it looks like the fund is growing at about a rate of 3 million a year, 37 million, or 3 million a month, 37 million a year. What is IDEM forecasting? Does IDEM forecast that to continue?
For the underground storage tank? So right now, it has grown since last year. Typically, it depends obviously on the gas prices and the ebbs and flows of what's happening at the gallon. We don't anticipate any major changes for fiscal 24. Once something drastic happens with the price of gas.
Yeah, and then to like the 25 and 26. It seems like it's gonna be about the same.
Yeah. Anything else? Okay, thank you.
Next on our agenda, we have several things under the agency activities update. Tim Beach is gonna talk to that, and I will probably break in when we start talking about some of the rules stuff, because there's new rulemaking processes that affect not just this board, but the entire agency, and that plays a role, so.
Queen Nancy, Chairman Nancy, President Nancy, and board members.
Yes.
Good to
Yes,
say
tell your friends.
Thank you for having me speak today, and Deputy Petroleum Branch Trustees. For those of you that don't know me, I've been in the petroleum branch, basically since I graduated college about 26 years ago, so. I come from the corrective action side. I took over for the branch chief position, about May of 2022. And so that's where I'm at now. These awesome responsibilities to talk to you. So, I'd like to take a minute to introduce Colleen Winiker. She is our new deputy AC of the Office of Land Quality. She took over for Doug Laux. I also wanted to publicly state that Peggy Dorsey has decided to retire in April of this year. And next year, so 2024. Yeah, sorry about that. So I just wanted to take a minute to thank her for her service to IDA and to OLQ, and specifically the petroleum branch. Holding this for sure, and so I appreciate personally. She may be at the next board meeting, depending on when that's scheduled for, so we may see her one more time. Maybe.
It's pre-April.
So I'm going to talk to you today. I'm going to give you a brief petroleum branch overview, especially for the new members. I also love, sorry, I want to welcome the two new members that we haven't onto the board. So appreciate you being here and participating with us. Just going to give a brief petroleum branch overview. I'm going to talk about the legislative changes from this session regarding Student Enrolled Act 246. It really was the most impactful legislation to come through impacting our program and the entire branch since I've been here for 26 years. There's a lot in there. There's a lot of change. Some of that impacts the sport and the exercisability trust fund. Some of those things don't. So I will touch briefly on the things that are impactful to the ELF today. Also go over some rule updates to 328 IC 1 and 329 AAC 9. And I'll give you a brief update on our Epic database bill. Just to give you all a brief overview of the branch, again, probably more so for these new members. We have 3 sections in our branch. We have what was formerly known as the underground storage tank section, which changed to the UST compliance section and is now known as the tanks compliance section. And again, that's due to some recent legislation. So we no longer just regulate USTs, we now also regulate ASTs. So that necessitated that name change. Tom Newcomb is the section chief. The general responsibilities of the section are to prevent releases. We have a group of inspectors. We do contractor certifications, again, a new gift from this session, and we do compliance management. Tom currently has 15 people in his group. We have 9 inspectors, 4 compliance managers, and 1 admin. Just to kind of give you some stats and background on the amount of facilities that we have currently about 3,978 UST facilities in Indiana, and that is just USTs, not ASTs. There are about 1,957 owners that represent those facilities, and about 13,000 tanks, give or take a few. Annually, we do about 1,298 inspections in Tom's group. Also have the petroleum radiation section, chaired by Section Chief Shay Hartley. They're responsible for release reporting, project management of UST, ASTs, and other petroleum releases, and UST quality report reviews. She currently has 17 staff members, 6 senior project managers, 8 project managers, and 2 admin. I think this year we've had, that's for the fiscal year, but we've had 118 releases so far this year for both suspected and confirmed. I apologize. There are about 800 active lefts currently in Shay's group. We also have about 370 other type of releases that group manages through the ICP and other type of petroleum releases that are not from regulated ASTs and USTs. And Shay's group issued about 157 NFAs this federal fiscal year. So we get about 120 to 150 new releases coming in every year. So we like to see that NFA number higher than the new releases coming in order to make headway. But 800 active releases is the best place we've been since I've been here. We've worked really hard over the years to drive those numbers down and get those states closed out, so. And this is just a depiction of those suspected comfort releases for this state fiscal year. The Claims Administrative New Claims section, formerly known as the ELF or UST Ops section. We did a name change there as well. Their primary responsibility for claim review, registration and notification processing, billing, and eligibility reviews. Katie Blackburn currently has 15 staff working for her, 4 senior claim reviewers, 9 claim reviewers, and 1 admin. We currently have 259 eligible releases in the state. And this year they've processed over 1,600 transactions, including registration, notifications, intent to close, and payment reports. So a lot of it in those sections. In addition to that, in addition to the section chiefs that report directly to me, I also have an environmental specialist, Robin Rathis. She kind of works across the programs. We have a senior database analyst, Jay Goulet, who's here today, helps us out with all of our analytics and technical information. We have Angie Stewart, our admin, who is phenomenal at what she does, and we really appreciate her. And we also have Chris Bowman, that works directly for me. She does the scope of work reviews for the ELF program. Wanted to talk briefly about the claims received and reviewed per month. I think the good factor to point out here is the average review time frame has been cut in half since July. We were at 84 and we're down to 42 days to review a claim. We also this last month have reviewed 1,544,361. And so to see that number, the review time frame to go down and the number of claims reviewed go up and the amount of dollars that we're going to go up is a really positive thing for me, and Katie's group has been working really hard. I think that's partially due to some staffing issues that we've had in the past. We've had a hard time keeping claim reviewers here. As most of you know, the governor's office put through a compensation study last year, and we were able to provide staff raises, and that has kept people here longer, I think, in most positions. So that's a great thing. It took some time to get those new claims reviewers in and up to speed, so that they could, be a productive member of the group and get these claims reviewed. And they've done a great job of that. So.
And one question.
Yeah,
The
yeah.
difference between the amount approved and the amount reimbursed, again, is just a matter of timing.
It's many things. So it's the delayed time from the approval to getting paid out at the auditor's office. It's things such as the percentages. Maybe you're only 50% eligible, and also the deductibles are worked into there as well. Lost me. There you go. So I think I'm going to cover regards to Enrolled Act 246. I'm going to hit on the ASTs, the aviation fuel account, the 50% decommissioning and replacement program, and the reopeners as they pertain to the all. ASTs have been added to our responsibilities, and the definition of the AST is one tank or combination of tanks that contain an accumulation of regulated substances where not more than 10% of the volume is underground, and is between the sizes of 1,500 gallons and 20,000 gallons. And is either stored out at bulk plant as part of the Pipeline Safety Act or basically at an airport. So, and when we talk about the retailer, that means a person who purchases motor fuel for sale to the general public for ultimate consumption. So I'll talk a little bit about that a little bit further on as we kind of get into these slides. But that is a definition of a regulated AST. ASTs were also added to the eligible release definition. So basically anywhere you saw UST, we've added ASTs in. And then there was also a change to this eligible release language. So I want to make sure that you could see those strikeouts there. And I've highlighted those changes. You know, the releases from a UST or AST that was registered with the department before the date of the ELF claim now reads before the date on which the claimant confirmed the existence of the release or if earlier first suspected release. There are other things that make up an eligible release there, as you can see. And I think those things will be important when I talk about another issue a little bit down the road on the reopener. So, you know, keep that definition in mind as you move forward. We did put out an announcement regarding regulated ASTs. It's up and available on our website. We put that on July 7th, 2023. We also developed 2 new forms, a registration and a notification form specific to ASTs. ASTs will be billed at the same rate that USTs are billed at $90 per tank. We will begin billing registered regulated ASTs that are in use after January 1st of 2024 during our April billing cycle. The statutes also put forth that we are running an inspection and contractor certification program for ASTs. That's a little down the road for us. That's not something that we're able to do right now. We have staffing concerns there. Also, we don't have any regulated ASTs yet as well that have been registered, so we don't for that to really do. And again, it's that will all go ahead and talk about it now. So I think there's a little confusion in the regulated community about what a regulated AST is. We've had 2 registrations that have come in. One was for an AST at a gas station, basically. It met the site requirements, but it clearly is not a bulk plant storing fuel to distribution to the retailer. So we denied them. We did not register those things. We did not require them to pay fees, and they're not eligible to bail. We also had a gentleman try to register ASTs at a trucking facility that he uses to fuel his fleet with. Again, registered so that if they do have releases, they can be eligible for up to $2.5 million from the Excess Liability Trust Fund for this investigation and corrective acting costs. The aviation fuel account, Hillary, I think this is probably the most exciting program for the regulated community. We're excited internally. I know our friends at the IFA are also excited. We've heard a lot from owners and operators and consultants. This is a new program for us. The goal is to remove aging UST systems to prevent releases. We're looking to get out those old tanks, those line steel tanks, those first generation fiberglass tanks, those that are older than 30 years old, that have caused or are likely to cause a catastrophic release. The qualifying. The statute changes put forth several qualifying factors. The applicant must be the registered owner of the tanks. Decommissioning or replacement must be necessary to protect human health and the environment, considering the age, obsolescence, and level of deterioration of the tank. And the costs have to be reasonable, cost effective, and result from work performed to decommission or replace. The legislation puts forward several pots of money for the different owner sizes. There's $20 million overall available. 10 million of that for those UST owners who own 12 or fewer tanks. 7.5 million available to those that own 13 to 100 tanks, and 2.5 million for those that own greater than 100 tanks. We will run this program on a first in, first out basis. After the maximum reimbursement has been reached in any category, additional reimbursement claims will be in the queue for the next fiscal year. So once we meet those thresholds, those monetary thresholds, we cannot pay out any more for that year. But we will keep you in queue to be paid out first following year.
Good. Go ahead.
I was just wondering, is there gonna be a publicly available way to see where you would fall in the queue? Because that's been a hesitation.
No.
People are gonna be closing their business for an extended period of time. They would like to know how it's gonna be like 10 years from now, or?
Yeah. Understood. And so we've had a lot of applications come in. That doesn't mean that everyone's going to move forward with those closures. So we'll be looking at, who's really moving forward until those claims come in. We do want to give visibility externally. We do plan to put something on our website. We're not exactly sure what that's going to look like, but we absolutely understand that that's really important to the regulated community. So we'll do our best to get that information out there.
Okay.
One question is, are those thresholds or could they be flexible if they this to a year or so and we find out that they're getting maxed out very quickly? Like for instance, the group that's over 100 tanks, that 2.5 million, that starts maxing out quickly. Do you think that could be at all changed or reconsidered? Especially with the growing elk fund balance?
I mean, I anticipate that it could, and it would, but that's a legislative change that would have to happen across the street, but based on the interest that we've seen so far, I think that's probably going to be necessary.
We're already looking at 2 or 3 years into this, we may be getting paid out for 7 years or so,
Absolutely.
yeah.
Absolutely.
Tim, as I done track how many potential claims, do you have any idea how quickly the 20 million for this fiscal year will be spent? Is that kind of been fleshed out yet, or you're still working on it?
I'll talk to you about the applications that we received and the approvals. We are not collecting financial information regarding these, so we don't know going in how much the project is going to cost, either for decommissioning or the reinstalls. So we don't have a good handle on the numbers per se, and we're gonna have to just wait and see as those claims come in. So some examples of eligible costs are removal and proper disposal of USTs, proper disposal of contaminated water and sludge, the development of the closure report. There's a qualifying factor that the report must be approved in order to receive payment once that claim comes in. Installation of replacement USTs to below the shear valve. So we're not talking about buildings, canopies, and dispensers. We're talking about only things that are below the ground or a part of that regulated UST system. That does include the UDCs and those types of things. But we're not looking to put in canopies up for everybody in that.
How about ATVs?
ATGs would be included. Yeah. We're also considering in-place closure work plans because in-place closure is a way to decommission your USDs. We also are considering tank constructions, installations, and we will replace concrete and asphalt. We will not expand your concrete and asphalt, but we'll pay for what was needed and necessary. To the extent practicable, and there are ELF rates available, we will utilize those. Where they are not, we're going to be making reasonable cost effectiveness decisions. We again have reached out to others to kind of get better understanding, specifically to reinstalls, because that's not really a game we've been in before. What those costs are and what would be reasonable. And so we're talking with the regulated community, we're trying to get information together, but we'll also be building out based on the screens that we're receiving as we're coming in. So bear with us, it's a brand new program, everyone's really excited about it. And again, we are too, but it's going to take time to work through all of those different issues. We did put it out an announcement for the effective date of the statutory change. On June 22nd, 2023. That is again also available on our website. We created 2 new forms as part of this program, a new eligibility application specific to the 50% decommissioning replacement, and a new claims application that is actually up today, I believe, on our website. So we just got that up yesterday. You will not be able to find it currently, I don't believe, from the IDEM website, but if you go to the AIRA site, it is there, and we will get our links set up in the next week or two for you to find that. But it is up and available. If you need copies of that, please reach out and we can send that to you as well, or send you those links. Applications to date, we've received 127 applications in the first 4 months of this program. That's a lot. We've written approvals for 81. We have denied 10, and we have 4 no determinations because we asked for additional information from the applicant. I currently have 15 pending in my inbox right now. So add all those numbers up, I think we have about 17 that are in-house for review. So it's taken us time. You know, our goal is to get these out and reviewed within 2 weeks to 30 days. We're just now there because we had such a large influx, but I expect in the next 2 weeks, we'll probably be working on this, and we'll be able to meet that 2-week review time again, because we know people want to move forward with the project. So we want to get the answer out there to them quickly, whether we think that they should be eligible to the program or not. In the different groups, I didn't bring the numbers with me, but I think there are around 40 in that 12 and under group, about 20 in the mid group, and I think almost 17 to 20 in that that large group, those large under 2.5. So you guys do the math, people that are in the business, the money's probably spent already for sure. Some of the common denial reasons for those 10 denials were incorrect owners on the application. That seems to happen a lot, just as it does with identification forms and other forms. We have people who may list themselves as owner in their individual capacity, and maybe their business owns it. Those things like that. We try to reach out when we can, and if it's the same parties, they own the business and it's their name, we'll reach out and say, hey, you need to submit an application. Sometimes that doesn't work, so we do have to move forward with the denial. Also, some tanks that do not meet the criteria, maybe they're not the line steel, the second generation, they're 30 years old. There's no known problems with those tanks. We're going to deny those as well. And then we've had some people that are decommissioning before the application approval. So IDEM has to approve your tanks before you start work. If we do not, we are going to deny your eligibility. Reopeners. So subsequent owners, ERCs, this is IC 132389. So I'm going to talk about 2 what I call reopeners, and this specific one is of course subsequent property owner who wants to be eligible for the reimbursement of remediation expenses when there is already an ERC recorded on property. there are some qualifying factors here, and that's why I wanted you to keep in mind that eligible release definition. The tank was registered and all annual fees for the tank were paid before the eligible release. So that second bullet there is not part of what determines a release to be eligible to receive payment from the fund. So this is an additional requirement that's been placed on the subsequent owner. Maybe it was a mistake, maybe it was intentional, I don't know, but it's a little troublesome for us on our end. So we're just encouraging tank owners to again, make sure you get your fees paid. Because you don't want to have somebody coming back on later because you didn't pay your fees before the release occurred. Because if you did not do that, you may be eligible as the owner now, but a future owner would not be.
I have a
That
question,
makes sense.
probably silly, but, trying to keep up with the USTs and ASTs, and I think I got a little of it, but, on these tanks, is it, a voluntary thing by the tank owners, or is there, an accounting of the age of the tanks that are out there, and are you telling them you have to replace these tanks? And what I think I understand here, so you can come in, of course, get some sort of relief on what it costs to get that done. And then the last part of my question would be, are all tanks accounted for in the state? And does it sound like some of these folks are coming forward voluntarily looking for this opportunity? So can you help me with that a little bit?
So
I
there have been,
apologize.
no, you're fine.
I'm sure that's 101, but I don't got it.
So there have been underground storage tank regulations since the 80, I believe, since the year
Yeah.
it was created. And so we have a really good handle on underground storage tanks. People know what are regulated, what have to be registered, what I.
Yeah.
AST is brand new, so we're
That's
just
the
trying,
aviation storage tanks.
no, above ground storage.
There you
tanks.
go. Yeah, that one.
Yeah, so that is all new. There are registration requirements for telling us how old your tanks are, how big they are.
So you know every tank in the state.
Well, we don't know every tank in the state.
There's ones you have registered.
Yes.
Okay. And so it's not a voluntary program. It's something that you go and say to your tanks of
The underground
what's the
storage,
age and you need to do something with it.
yeah, the underground storage tank program is a federal program. AST is now a state program, and they were not for.
And based upon the weakness of my question, anything you can send my way to read,
Mhm.
I'd be glad to do it.
Okay. For sure, I'll do that.
Be careful what you ask for.
That's all right. If I'm gonna do it, I'd like to know what's going on.
There's also another reopener per se, and this is for sites that have received a no further action from the agency. And so if a UST facility plans to decommission the site as an underground storage tank facility, meaning that, you know, they were no longer going to sell gas there, they're removing all of their operation. We can have an ELF reopener if you are doing that. So basically, the situation is you're closing USTs in the property. You have a prior release where we know we left contamination in place. You're now able to get at that contamination. And so this reopener can allow you to do that. And again, in certain circumstances. We are still working through these things internally. We're still working through the interpretation of some of these things with our regulated community and the Indiana Finance Student People Association. No, things can change, but this is where we're at today. What we're expecting for these reopeners, we're looking at managing waste, basically. So we're looking at paying for soil removal and managing your groundwater, basically. We anticipate, you know, in a situation where you're in NFA and you're pulling the tanks, you know, those are readily available. For a subsequent property owner, if you are digging in an area where we know there's contamination, maybe you're putting in a new building foundation or something, those are the things that we're expecting to come in under this, but risk-based principles do apply here. We did close these sites with those risk-based principles, so it's not freedom to just dig up and dispose of every and all contaminated soil and dispose of all contaminated groundwater. It's just what's necessary to do that work that you're doing. You're living the tank, putting in the foundation, that kind of thing. That's how I anticipate seeing those claims coming.
I think you're slowing it down for me, but thank you.
No. You're not.
Let's do it for the standard engineer.
Just wanted to give some quick rule updates, and I will have Beauty jump in here in a second, but regarding 320 IC1, we, have a first notice out there right now. There are cost guideline changes that are needed, much needed. And so we are working on those, and we're working on incorporating these new SEA 246 changes regarding ASTs, the 50% decommissioning and replacement program, and the reopeners. And where we are at on that, I'll kind of let Nancy chime in here.
Okay, so the rule updates, as Tim points out, because of the statutory changes that occurred in the last session, it didn't really make sense for us to, with the draft rule that we've been working on to update everything. It didn't make sense to move forward with that without including all of the things that happened in the last session as part of the draft. So that's part of what we've been doing to include those things in there. Because, this rule, and Chris can verify this for me, whenever we open this rulemaking, we always end up having a work group of some sort. It can be small, it can be very specific to a particular task, it can be all kinds of things. But this is a particular rule that everybody, the expertise of the folks involved in it, it lends itself to the work group process. So it didn't make sense to sort of divide it into two separate pieces. So it slowed it down a little bit. The other part about rulemaking, for those of you who may have not heard about this, our entire rulemaking process has now changed. There were changes in the last legislative session that IDEM has always done our rulemaking through Title 13 as opposed to Title 4, which is what everybody else uses. Basically, we're now in the large soup with everybody else in Title 4. So our entire rulemaking process is no more the one that we're used to using. So one of the things that we're trying to figure out transition-wise is that we've been working with both the Attorney General's office as well as Legislative Services for rules that were started under the old process. We are allowed to finish them under the old process, or we've been told that. There's been some discussions about the fact that in certain cases, depending on where that rulemaking is in the process, they might make us just withdraw that and start under the new process. Under the new process, the one thing that we now have to worry about at IDEM and everybody that impacts this has to worry about is we are now under the 1 year requirement to finish a rule. That was never the case. And one of these old rulemakings, Chris can attest to this one too. It took much longer than a year. and that happens for a lot of our types of rules, especially when there are a lot of different folks involved and we get work groups involved. So we've always had the ability to take as long as we needed to. We can, under the new process, explain to the powers that be, we won't have it done by the 1 year deadline of when we would start the process. But we have to give them a date certain by which it will be done. And if it is not done by that date, we have to start over. It makes no sense to me either. Anyway, that is the process that we will now have to go through. So what that means for us in terms of a rulemaking process and what I'm trying to solidify with the AG's office who approves our rulemaking as well as Legislative Services is whether our draft rule that we started for this particular rulemaking is far enough along that we can use the old process, or if they're going to force us to withdraw that and start it under the new process, because that will really squeeze us when it comes time to do to talk about, work group types of things. I mean, on the one hand, it means they won't go on forever. On the other hand, the point of them is for people to be able to discuss what makes sense as far as the rulemaking goes. So it is going to change how we do things. Ideally, I would like for us to be able to use our old process, but I just haven't gotten a firm answer on that as yet. So I just wanted to let you guys know what's going on with that process, and we still want to be able to have that back and forth, because especially for this rulemaking, having gone through it a few times, I know how important those discussions are, because the folks that use this are the folks that understand it. So it's specifically for this rulemaking, that could be a problem. If we have to go to the quicker way, you're going to have to get all the thoughts together much more quickly. You have to write faster, because we do want to get it done within the time frame we tell them. There's a lot that we're still working through on that. If you have questions about that, I'm happy to try to answer those as best I can. But that's kind of where we are with rulemaking right now.
In addition to 328 IC1, 329 AAC9 has seen some pretty major changes as well. We codified the notification registration requirements. We repealed 329 AAC 9-5, the corrective action requirements, in reference to the federal code. Those changes were adopted by the Environmental Rules Board and were effective October 12th of 2023. And so those are some big changes, especially on the investigation corrective action side of the office. Getting rid of 9.5 allows us a little bit more flexibility. We also have a remediation risk-based closure guide, where we didn't have when these rules were created. And we also have, formal formats that are pretty standardized out there and people understand them and utilize. So not a lot of changes in our expectations right now on the corrective action side, but we no longer have regional IC 9.5. Epic, our Epic database. So we have been working on a database build for several years. Beginning in January of 2022, the internal facing part of that database has been up and running, and we've been processing registration notification forms. Intends to close and clear which through that new system. To date, we've completed over 3,600 transactions in that new system. On the external facing side, we have a portal that's in development. We've had 2 focus groups that we've reached out to test and give us comment and information back on how to move through that. That includes a tanks facility search, which is kind of a non-logged in user, member of the general public to log into that portal, and they can see, every facility in the state. They can drill down into different areas if they want to, but they can drill all the way down to that tank level information. We also have put out a focus group to look at the tanks dashboard. So this is more for those logged in users and those people that own and operate underground storage tanks, or their consultants and contractors. So that presents your facilities on a dashboard for you to show you what you are associated to or working with. So we did send that off a comment several months ago. We received limited comments back. We were hoping to get a little bit more back, quite frankly, but we're continuing to work on that building so that we can get that possibly external facing in the future. Our next steps, we are adding the ASTs into our registration and notification process. As you can imagine, we just completed that build, so adding in now ASTs into this new database is a little bit complicated. So we're working through those. We're also working on the development of a state form upload and a DocuSign process, so that owners and operators can submit those notification registration forms through this portal or online and sign those documents. So that's kind of what we're. So again, a lot going on. We've got a database build. We've got rules that are changing. We've got statutory changes. I can't tell you how proud I am of my staff. They've been working really hard. We've made missteps along the way, but we're doing our best to run this program in an efficient way for owners and operators and consultants. And so I just want to give a shout out to them too. Are there any questions from you all?
And how stretched thin is staff right now?
We're stretched pretty thin. Yeah, for sure.
I have a generic question.
Yeah.
And that's across all the sections at this point for Patrol and Bridge.
Yeah, I mean, we lose some, we get some, right? So, you know, I'll just take one group in particular, the group I'm most familiar with, our petroleum remediation section, right? We were just managing underground storage tanks. We were driving down those numbers for those active releases, and we've been working really hard on that simple years. Peggy gave us the wonderful gift of other petroleum releases, so that petroleum releases could be managed in a similar way, right? To have two different groups managing those releases was difficult. So we took on that additional work, and now to maybe taking on AST, you know, complicating factors there too. It's been a lot, for sure. So sometimes we get rid of things, sometimes we get more things in replacement. So yeah, there's just, sorry, that was a long answer. No, that's perfectly fine.
I just put it back. Can you tell me anything about the rate that certain violations are being sent to enforcement? I've not heard much about the enforcement part this year.
So it's kind of out of the purview of this board, but just in general, we have kind of slowed down those referrals to enforcement because of some other issues going on in the office. But we will be picking back up on them. So our compliance rates are low right now. And many facilities should be moving towards enforcement.
Yeah, I want, I guess, from my environmental perspective, would like to see compliance be part of what makes someone eligible for a new build or new installation, that the product at the end is in compliance, that what the ELF has paid for.
Yeah, so we had a lot of internal conversation on whether compliant or somebody who's in enforcement should be allowed in that 50% program. We also talked to our partners on the outside. And what we decided are those are the tanks that we want out of the ground.
Right.
They're not compliant, they're problematic, we want to get them out of the ground. So in that regard, they allow them. But I struggle with those things myself as well. But the benefit is
Right.
is higher. Yeah. Okay, thank you, Richard.
Thanks, Tim. At this point on our agenda, we are up to open forum. Is there anyone who would like to speak to the board today? Anyone at all who just never really gets up to talk to us?
Just break the mold and try something new and
I
different.
knew I could depend on you.
Madam Chairman, new members of the Financial Insurance Board, my name is Chris Baran. I've been the General Counsel of the Indiana Food and Fuel Association for more than 30 years and been actively involved in overseeing and working with the Financial Insurance Board and the ELF Fund since 1991. So I'm really dating myself. But, you know, one thing that, and Mr. Ryan, one thing I want you to really appreciate is everybody who's involved in the process, the Financial Insurance Board, the tank owners, the operators, the consultants, the lawyers involved, the legislature, we all share a common goal, which is to have clean air, clean water, clean soil, while also having a thriving business community. And there are tensions built within that. But I will submit to you that the Financial Insurance Board, the regulators and the regulated community are a model of working together. And over the years, we have worked through numerous rulemakings, numerous changes, numerous legislative changes. And I'm joined today by Matt Norris, who is the co-executive director of the Indiana Food and Fuel Association, which comprises the majority of the station owners in the state of Indiana. And by listening to the concerns of each of the different groups, we have traditionally come together with unanimity and come up with regulations, which is almost unheard of in the and particularly in today's climate. I'm so happy you became chairwoman without 4 rounds of voting and 3 weeks of delay and that sort of thing.
It just seems like a quicker way to go.
That's right. And so one of the things that Tim Beach was commenting on is Senate bill, it was SEA 246. And just to put that into perspective, it is the leading piece of legislation in the United States. We are the first state in the union to have underground storage tank fund above ground storage tank cleanups. We are second in the country in terms of allowing for the excess liability trust fund to pay for 50% of the cost to upgrade. And what that means is instead of always being reactive, either as the regulators
from IDEM or the Roman community, or as tank owners like we have here today, it allows us to be proactive. That now we can go out and be proactive in terms, instead of waiting for a catastrophic tank failure and a release and spending 7 figures to clean it up, we can now go out, partner with those folks who own these facilities and have 50% of the cost to remove the old tank before it fully degrades and put in a new system. And there'll be some limited, remediation with that. It also, the bill that we went through, and Matt Norris is also our lobbyist for the association, did an amazing job this last session. And to give you some idea, Senate Bill 246 passed the House and the Senate with unanimity. I mean, to have, in today's environment, where people agree on anything is remarkable. But this bill it was good policy, and it was because it was the result of good work from IDEM and the regulated community and others. And so, good policy makes for good politics, and it got enacted. But we're very excited because by allowing us to be proactive, we think that we'll be able to reduce the ultimate cleanup costs, because you can get in there before the releases have occurred. They've also, one of the features, and Tim referenced this, historically, if you have gas stations, they're typically on good corners, right? But oftentimes it's difficult to sell them to a CVS or McDonald's or other to change it because there's residual contamination there. This bill, again, one of the first in the country, allows a reopener, allows us to go. So if that site was 100% eligible when it was a gas station, but you leave residual contamination there because it's still going to be used as a gas station. So you reduce the levels down to a point where it's safe to use, where it's not a threat, vapor's not a threat, it's not running off site, and that sort of thing. And so it would continue on as a gas station. So, but now it allows for us to sell these properties at full value instead of a discounted value, because now we can say to a prospective owner, we now have a funding mechanism to clean it up to non-detect. So it's absolutely clean. That will allow us to restore the value of the proper fair market value and sell the property accordingly. So that's an example of the collaboration we've had with the Financial Assurance Board. In fact, I'm going to reach out to the governor's office. We're going to reject Peggy's resignation and retirement next year. She's not allowed to retire anytime soon. But I wanted to give you sort of a big picture.
Thank you.
Since,
Thank you.
it's the petroleum industry is one of the most highly regulated industries out there. To open a typical gas station, you need 18 to 20 different licenses and that sort of thing. And the environment is a key part of it. And folks like Trout and others are leaders in their communities in terms of trying to provide a service to the community while also being environmentally safe and go from there. So we're very excited that the good work that Tim and his team have put together. Again, they're creating a playbook for other states to follow. There's no cut and paste that we can use. So I really applaud their efforts. And it got enacted in April. It was supposed to become effective July 1. So there was not a lot of time to pull this together. So we're very excited about this. We think this is going to be outstanding. And again, one of the things that we're excited about, because our expectation is this program will be oversubscribed. That right now we set aside $20 million a year through the different categories, the 3 different layers that Tim was talking about. Our hope and expectation is it's going to be way oversubscribed, so that when we go back in 2 years and Matt does his presentations to the legislature, they realize this is a great program and we can increase the funding. And there'll be some technical amendments and clarification along the way. As you know, with any legislation, you can't contemplate every single situation. In fact, Tim and Colleen and I and Matt, we were talking before this meeting started about trying to understand how this program will work as it relates to a particular site. And that will continue to happen. So we're very excited about it. We think it's going to allow even more sites in Indiana to be cleaned up. That both from the AST, we have a limit on the UST, which is $20 million. The piece we don't know yet is on the above ground storage tanks. What's that price tag going to be? Because right now we enjoy an incredibly healthy balance, a record, quite frankly, it's never been this high. We'll wait and see, but there's a long lag time, obviously, to supply chain and everything else. So we may get to the end of next year and we may not have fully spent all the $20 million. And one of the things we're going to want to clarify is those dollars should roll over. I mean, they've been set aside for $20 million a year, so that if we don't, just because of supply lines. So if you order something now, you may not get tanks until next May or June. So we're we're gonna work, and there'll be some more clarifications. We appreciate, Nancy is a longtime leader in terms of working with the work groups. The last couple times we've had amendments, and that's where, again, by the end, we've had unanimity, which is again remarkable. But that allows for very healthy discussions and candid discussions, because the folks that I didn't have a job to do, to regulate us. Folks like, we have here today with Trout and others, they have a job to do. Lauren and Nevis are both the environmental consulting community. They work to clean up these sites. We have other consultants here from Creek Run, American Environmental, and others and IWM that are leaders in their field in terms of doing the cleanup. So it's a great ecosystem of people working together to come together and ultimately achieve our collective goal on that. So that's sort of the big picture Reader's Digest summary of 30 years of work on this area. So with that, I'd be happy to see any questions anyone else might have. Great, thanks so much, Madam Chairman.
Thank you, Chris. Is there anyone else? I like this whole Madam Chairman thing. Is there anyone else who would like to address the board today? On a personal note, Chris is right. I haven't been around since way too long. I would just like to personally thank all of the board members who were reappointed. I would like to thank the ones who were not reappointed, who gave their time to be on this board. And I do second what Chris said. I think that this group together, we do a really good job of listening to each other and collaborating, and I appreciate it. And I appreciate your time to be on these boards. So with that, and since this is my only chance to be the Madam Chair, I just thought I should say that. So if there's nothing else before the board, and unless anyone else has something else to say, I will take a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Adjourn. Do we have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Meeting adjourned. Thank you very much.